These are Alaska's serial killers. Thomas Bunday. He killed several young women and girls in the Alaskan city of Fairbanks between 1979 and 1981. Bunday had long evaded suspicion while serving at the Eielson Air Force Base, which is close to Fairbanks at the time of the murders. On September 28, 1948, Thomas Bunday was born in Nashville, Tennessee. His older brother Ralph was 15 years older than him, making him the youngest of the family's two children. Bunday was raised in a socially undesirable environment since his father, a World War II veteran, had mental health issues and was violent with his wife and younger son. Thomas fled his house for a few days after his father passed away in 1963 because he didn't want to go to his funeral. Despite being unpopular with his peers, Bunday excelled academically and had a wide circle of friends and acquaintances, which contributed to his optimistic attitude on life. He married his high school girlfriend after graduating in 1966 and enlisted in the U.S. Air Force in 1967, rising to the rank of technical sergeant. Southeast Asia was where Bunday served in the late 1960s and early 1970s. His wife gave birth to a boy at this time who was fathered by a different man. He stayed with his wife, who later welcomed a daughter. Bunday was assigned to Eielson Base in Alaska for additional service in the middle of the 1970s. He started to exhibit symptoms of emotional exhaustion around this time and started going to a therapist. On August 29, 1979, 19-year-old Fairbanks resident Glinda Sodman vanished, sparking the start of the murder series. 2 months later, her decomposing body was discovered 23 miles south of Fairbanks in a gravel dump close to the highway. Doris O-Ring, age 11, vanished on June 13, 1980. Her brother told the authorities that he had witnessed his sister talking to an unknown individual who was in a blue car and dressed in an Air Force uniform a few days before her disappearance. Marlene Peters, 20, went missing on January 31, 1981. She was preparing to travel from Fairbanks to Anchorage. Wendy Wilson, 16, vanished 5 weeks later while she was going to the house of the Olps to visit her boyfriend, who was staying there. Wendy had been offered a ride by Mrs. Olp prior to her disappearance. The half-decomposed remains of Marlene Peters were discovered just before the disappearance of 18-year-old Lori King on May 16, 1981. King's decomposing body was discovered close to the Eielson Air Base in October 1981, not far from Wilson's. For the first time throughout the investigation, the police started to believe that a serial killer from the military was active in the area. The police investigated every member of the Eielson Air Base staff, including the civilian specialists, as part of their research. Only 3 individuals, including Bunday, were listed as suspects by February 3, 1982. These individuals were known for their destructive behavior with women at different points in time. He had been stationed in Wichita Falls, Texas since September 1981. On March 7, 1983, Thomas Bunday was detained and brought to the police station for questioning. They searched his home and the trunk of his vehicle in addition to questioning him. Evidence connecting Bunday to the Fairbanks killings was discovered during that search. When Thomas found out, he confessed to killing 5 women and girls that same day and gave a detailed account of the killings and their circumstances. He was also questioned in the March 22 murder of Cassandra Goodwin, but he adamantly denied any involvement. Bunday suggested that sexual complexes and psychological issues were the driving forces behind the killings. He confessed, but as there was no arrest warrant, he was not taken into custody and had to be freed. Thomas Bunday was not promptly taken into custody in Texas after Alaskan authorities filed an arrest warrant for him on March 15, 1983. About 40 miles outside of Wichita Falls, Texas, Bunday crashed into a vehicle after he switched into the oncoming lane of the highway while riding his motorcycle. His death was nearly immediate. Later, it was determined that the incident was a suicide. James Dale Ritchie. Ritchie killed up to 5 people in and around Anchorage, Alaska during the course of 2016, the most of them were in parks or on bike routes. His killings were always at night, usually at midnight or shortly thereafter. He was born on November 4, 1976. He was raised in the Wonder Park neighborhood of Anchorage and went to East Anchorage High School, where he was a standout athlete at 6 feet 3 inches and played basketball and football on the 1994 state championship teams with future professional athletes Mao Tozy and Trajan Langdon. Quincy and Bobby Thompson were Ritchie's close friends, and during his adolescence, Ritchie frequently stayed with their family. In 1994, one day after Quincy's passing, Ritchie received an SAT score of 1200 and was recruited by the West Virginia University football team. After that, he stopped communicating with the Thompsons. Ritchie left WVU after a semester, went back to Alaska, and started engaging in dogfighting and drug selling in 1995. Ritchie had taken on the street name Tiny by 1998. He was arrested several times during the next 7 years, mostly for drug-related offenses. His final arrest occurred in Alaska in 2005 when he was caught committing a home invasion while carrying 2 weapons and plastic handcuffs. He spent 2 years in prison and then lived in Alaska, where he obtained the Colt Python firearm. In 2013, Ritchie moved to Broadway, Virginia, where his parents had previously resided, and gave his firearm to a friend. He did not appear in court and was seen by the police as a law-abiding citizen, with the exception of 2 traffic violations. In March 2016, Ritchie returned to Alaska after splitting from his fiancée. After repurchasing the Colt Python from the friend, he relocated to Airport Heights and remained there until relocating to Anchorage Spanland Parkway Trailer Park. Although the Anchorage Police Department was unable to determine whether Ritchie had been diagnosed, he sought mental health therapy. On July 3, 2016, early in the morning, Ritchie shot Jason Netter Sr., 41, and Brianna Foisey, 20, in his first 2 confirmed killings. The 2 bodies were found together around 7:45 a.m. Netter was well known for his frequent legal run-ins, frequently connected to his drug use and his child support disputes with his 2 daughters, one of whom changed her name. Homeless, Foisey had become addicted to drugs. It was not established or revealed what kind of relationship Foisey and Netter had. The APD made photographs of 2 unnamed men who were subjects of interest for the inquiry public after going over hours of surveillance material. On July 29, 26 days later, Ritchie committed his 3rd confirmed murder. He shot Travion Kendall Thompson, 21, many times as he rode his bicycle home from work between Dubban Avenue and Bolin Street in East Anchorage just after 3 in the morning. Thompson was the son of his childhood buddy, Bobby Thompson. The gunfire was heard by 3 girls who had just moments before seen Ritchie seizing Thompson's bicycle while lurking in the woods next to Bolin Street via their window. Ritchie took the bicycle from the scene and took it home, where witnesses saw it but did not identify it as being connected to any criminal activity. Shortly after the police reached Bolin Street, they discovered Thompson, who was declared dead at the spot. Sergeant Slavomir Markievich oversaw the interviewing of witnesses and the creation of a composite sketch of the suspect, who would subsequently be positively identified as Ritchie. The Alaska State Crime Lab discreetly verified shortly after Thompson's death that the identical murder weapon used in the killings of Foisey and Netter was also used in Thompson's murder. Kevin Turner, 34, and Bryant D. Hassan, 25, were shot dead by Ritchie in Valley of the Moon Park early on August 28. At 1:42 a.m., a female pedestrian who wished to remain anonymous found the Hassan's body on the trail while strolling through the park. Police found Turner's bullet-riddled body in the park beneath the pavilion shortly after they arrived. Due to his recent poor performance at assisted living homes, Turner, who suffered from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, was homeless at the time. Gordon DeHassan, his father, believed that DeHassan, a well-known local environmental activist, was riding his new Schwinn late at night to meet a friend. DeHassan and Turner had no relationship. Very little evidence was found at the crime scene, according to the APD's police report. But according to the Alaska State Crime Lab, the same weapon that killed Turner and DeHassan was also used in the previous killings. The APD issued a warning to the public to stay away from secluded trails after dark after identifying a pattern of murders. The FBI was brought in to help with the investigation after Turner and DeHassan were killed. Although he refused to accept the evidence supporting the serial killer idea, Anchorage Mayor Ethan Berkowitz held a press conference on September 6 and claimed that gang violence was mostly to blame for the city's record-breaking murder rate. The FBI refused to comment on any connection to the other murders, fearing that if they acknowledged that a weapon linked all the crimes together, the killer might be prompted to dispose of it. However, by offering a $10,000 reward, the FBI was able to apprehend the suspect who killed Thompson. Over the next 2 months, the joint APD and FBI task force received upwards of 175 tips, at least one of which was about Ritchie. After Thompson was killed, his mother, Mandy Premo, said she found her son's killer through her own independent investigation. In October 2016, she reportedly encountered an armed Ritchie next to Alaska Regional Hospital and told the lieutenant of the Alaska Police Department that she had located her son's murderer. Because Ritchie was armed and her baby was in the car, she said the lieutenant cautioned against going up to him directly. On November 12, 2016, Ritchie was shot and murdered by 38-year-old officer Arn Salao and 34-year-old Sergeant Mark Patsky of the Anchorage Police Department near the intersection of 5th Avenue and Cordova Street. Ritchie was seen strolling along the street at 4:30 a.m. by Officer Salao, who was responding to an unrelated incident of unpaid taxi fares. In order to ask Ritchie if he had seen the crime, Salao pulled up next to him and motioned for him to stop. He repeated the query over his loudspeaker as Ritchie kept going. Ritchie abruptly turned, approached Salao's car, pulled out his Colt Python and started shooting at him, striking him 6 times, injuring his liver, intestines, and bones. In addition to returning fire, Salao got out of his patrol cruiser and confronted Ritchie physically. Concurrently, K-9 Unit Sergeant Patsky noticed the altercation and opened fire on Ritchie, who was fatally wounded. After 7 hours of surgery, Salao was transferred to a nearby hospital and discharged from the intensive care unit. The Colt Python that Ritchie was carrying was sent to the Alaska Crime Lab after his death, where it was determined to be the murder weapon that killed Brianna Foisey, Jason Netter Sr., Travion Kendall Thompson, Kevin Turner, and Bryant DeHassan. Because Ritchie had not had any run-ins with the authorities in the 10 years prior, the investigation task force had not regarded him as a suspect. APD Chief Chris Tolley held a press conference to reveal the link between the killings and the attempt on Officer Salao's life following 78 hours of investigation and communication with the victims' families. The firearm was bought in 1971 and was not registered to Ritchie. The APD questioned the weapon's original owner to find out how it ended in Ritchie's possession. APD spokeswoman Renee Oisted declared on April 26, 2017 that there was enough probable cause to establish Ritchie's guilt as a serial killer and the only person responsible for the 5 killings. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye-bye.